Oh, you guys got me? 10-876-54321.
Right now on the National Weather Desk, under threat, storms, winds, and even tornadoes could impact millions of Americans today, even as snow falls from the Pacific Northwest to Arizona. Also, why the cleanup is taking so long after the Austin ice storm.
We're really, surprised at the amount of debris from this storm.
You may like warmer winters, but guess what? So do bugs.
Insects that we didn't used to see until April or May, they're now being active as early as the end of February and March.
Dormant and chill. Why fruit trees need that winter chill to survive.
It's like if you didn't get 8 hours of sleep at night.
Plus, a sneak peek at the weather for this weekend's Daytona 500.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
And good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I am Angela Brown. We are tracking severe weather for millions of Americans today and also for tomorrow. The biggest risk, actually, later today is in the south, from Texas up into portions of Ohio and West Virginia. But the biggest risk is along the orange color you're seeing right here in Arkansas, Tennessee, and also Mississippi. Thunderstorms, winds, and tornadoes are all possible. Tomorrow, the threat moves east and impacts many more people. The enhanced risk is from lower Mississippi to northern Ohio, with a slight risk as far north as New Hampshire. So stay aware and pay attention to your local meteorologist for any updates. And also parts of Oregon got a decent dose of snow Tuesday. You can see it right there, but they're expecting sun today. And with that, also a new concern. What happens when higher temperatures make the roads wetter?
When those temperatures dip again, in the evenings over the next couple of days, that could form ice. So that's the next area that we're really wanting to remind travelers about it.
And keep this in mind. ODOT is stressing that if you're using any of those GPS apps to get yourself around, they really don't know specific weather and road conditions. Their advice here: be very wary about using any roads that are not heavily maintained. And another major storm rolled through parts of Arizona early Tuesday morning. You can see it here, bringing dangerous road conditions and more than a foot of snow to higher elevations. You can see a semi-truck, this one right here, that got stuck on the ice. Officials are asking those who do not need to travel, basically, just stay off those roads. And Utah as well, it's seen its fair share, a decent dose of snow in recent weeks, and all of that snow is causing some unexpected damage. Meteorologist Lindsay Storrs explains how different types of snow can have vastly different effects.
Snow can weigh a lot, especially when you get 1 to 2 feet of it. Just this week in Utah, we had a carport come down on cars because it was so laden with heavy snow. So I wanted to show you just how much that snow can weigh. If you've got a foot of snow on a 1,500 square foot roof, let's say it's really light, fluffy snow, even that fluffy snow with a water to snow ratio of 15:1 is about the weight of a big truck. Now, if you've got a normal snow with a ratio of 10 inches of snow to 1 inch of water, that's the equivalent of a truck and a passenger car being on top of your roof. And if you've got a foot of that heavy, wet snow on your roof, that's the equivalent to having 3 big trucks up on top of your roof. So you can see why snow can be so dangerous when you get a lot of it.
And now to Texas, where it's been 2 weeks since that destructive ice storm that brought a large number of trees that were damaged. Cleanup, of course, is still ongoing, but it is far from complete. Betty Cross reports on why it'll take several more weeks before things are actually back to normal.
Across Austin, people are waiting for this metal claw to drop in front of their houses and start picking up mounds of storm debris. Every part of the city suffered tree damage.
We're really, surprised at the amount of devastation and the amount of debris from this storm. And so I think everybody's just kind of in awe of what we've seen so far.
Ken Snipes is the director of Austin Resource Recovery. He says 70 crews are working to haul away large branches and tree limbs.
Just with the sheer number of boots on the ground, we believe we can maintain a pretty rapid pace.
So far, city crews and private contractors have hauled away almost 2,600 truckloads of debris.
A lot of large branches came down off our oaks.
Josh Mosel says it took a while to get all the downed tree limbs in his yard stacked by the curb. He made it just in time for pickup.
I hope they are able to collect ours and our neighbors' tree limbs and then get to the rest of the city pretty quickly.
Austin Resource Recovery is still expecting to make 2 rounds of debris collections over the next 2 months.
And Washington, D.C. is among many parts of the country that had an unusually warm winter. And you know what that means? More bugs. Veronica Johnson has more.
The DMV's weirdly warm weather may have you saving it on the heat, but it's also making for more insects that are going to be coming out earlier in the spring. This winter is currently sitting at, look at this, the 6th warmest in 151 years of record for the D.C. area. So I talked to the University of Maryland's bug guy about what we can expect.
Most of the bugs are still inactive, but as temperatures get into the 60s and 70s, we're going to see more activity with things like ticks when we go for our walk. There will be certain flies that also appear earlier. And just a little bit later on, if we continue with warm weather through this month and into March, we'll see some of our pollinators like bees being active much earlier than they would normally be.
That's right. So here's the thing. Climate Central says that winter is the fastest warming season for much of the nation. And here in D.C., we have 11 more days that are above average since 1970. We still get cold days. It's just not as cold, and those cold snaps are starting to shrink.
Insects that we didn't used to see until April or May, they're now being active as early as the end of February and March. So it's going to shift earlier. And for insects that have multiple generations, things like mosquitoes, for example, or aphids on our plant, we're simply going to see more generations each year because the growing season is now longer. It starts earlier and it goes later.
And as global temperatures rise, we are seeing more wildfires. For more on how wildfires develop and what you can do to stay safe, we head to meteorologist Violet Skybor in Syracuse, New York.
Let's explain why wildfires occur and what you should do when one happens. First, starting with the weather conditions needed for a wildfire. Dry vegetation, low humidity, and some strong gusty winds to help that fire spread. But first, let's think about an actual fire. What's needed for one to start? First, we need a heat source, which in the case of wildfires, the most common heat source is lightning. And due to climate change, that's the biggest trigger for more extreme lightning storms. But we can also get a heat source from human-induced activities, which include campfires or even cigarette butts. Now, we also need fuel. which in the case of wildfires, fuel is dry greenery, including brush, prairie grass, trees, are excellent fuel for fires. And we also need oxygen, which comes in the form of wind. The more wind there is, the more oxygen is feeding into that wildfire, keeping it going. So when this wildfire starts, it can be very, very small, but when that wind picks it up and causes this wildfire to travel, it can travel up to 14 miles per hour. That's about a 4-minute mile pace of a human. So it's almost impossible for humans to outrun these wildfires because of how fast they travel, which is also the other reason why they issue evacuations. And you definitely want to listen to local officials when they do this. Prepare to evacuate. Listen to emergency channels and know the status of the fire. Put emergency supplies and must-have items in your car so you can evacuate very quickly if you live in a wildfire-prone area.
And the results are in from Minnesota. Now, they had this contest to name 8 snowplows. You have to really see the list to get the names, and we have this list for you. 8 names here, renaming snowplows. Here they are. You're a Blizzard, Harry, right there. That refers to Harry Potter. Cleopatra. Better Call Saul, the TV show. Han Snowlow, of course, Star Wars. Batter Tot Hot Dish, that's another one. Scoop, there it is. Remember the song? Fleetwood Mac. And the last one on the list is Blizzo. Now, that's a combination of Blizzard and Lizzo. She actually went on Twitter and called it the highest honor of her career. We'll be right back.
There is a snowplow named Blizzo that is clearing the streets of the Twin Cities right now. Makes my heart melt or freeze.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. Many of you are starting with temperatures in the 30s and 40s this morning under mainly cloudy skies. But look at what happens when the sun returns. 40s, 50s, and even some low 60s make an appearance. That's during the afternoon today. Now, as we go into Thursday, more mild temperatures are going to hang around. Friday is going to be the most dynamic day in the forecast simply because we have a sharp cold front moving through the Northeast. It's the boundary between those 50s and 30s that will be arriving for Saturday.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Starting off mild, maybe a spritz here or there. Otherwise, temperatures well into the 60s, even near 70 degrees for our Wednesday afternoon. We will take that for mid-February. And also, it looks like some sunshine breaks out as well in the wake of our latest weather maker. A little disturbance rolling out to the east. The warmer weather lasted to Wednesday as well, but the next weather maker, that cold front you see out west, could give us some rain. That's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs for the day. Looking at Birmingham, 70 degrees, 66 Atlanta. Jacksonville, 81 degrees ahead of a front. Looks like this front's not a strong one, but still it's going to be pushing through the area, giving us a chance for some showers around Atlanta, down through Birmingham and Jackson, Mississippi. It's going to kind of retract up to the north, but we'll still see some warm air coming up out of the south as we go through the next few days. It looks like we'll have a bigger cool down heading our way on the back edge of the system as it moves through parts of Florida by the end of the week.
The National Weather Desk.
And welcome back, everyone. Dr. Warren Washington may not be a household name, but he is a pioneer in the world of weather, recognized for his development of weather and climate computer modeling in the 1960s. He was also the second African-American to receive a PhD in the field. Now, here's a look back at an interview he did in 2020 with meteorologist Veronica Johnson.
I was always a kid who wanted to know how things worked. And when I was in high school, I took lots of courses in physics and chemistry and so forth and so on. And I decided that I wanted to be a scientist. And when I got to the library and started using it to learn about what different scientists did, I came up with the idea that these came from families very similar to mine, where they came from ordinary homes and so forth and so on. And so I had the feeling in my mind, why can't I be a scientist?
When you were coming up, who was it that you looked up to as a mentor, as someone where you could see yourself doing that? Did you have anybody?
Chemistry teacher, she was very good. And I asked her on one day, why are egg yolks yellow?
Mm-hmm.
And she says, why don't you find out? And that started me on the search of because I got something called the Handbook of Chemistry. And I couldn't read all of it because I didn't understand all that stuff. But I did learn that there were sulfur compounds in egg yolks. And they came from chickens eating seeds.
Of all the awards that you have gotten over your lifetime, is there any that made you say, oh my gosh, wow, I really have made it now?
I guess it was the National Medal of Science. It was a wonderful ceremony at the White House. And I was given the award along with 9 other scientists. And just to give you some idea, one of the scientists was the inventor of the digital camera.
Well, Warren was a pioneer because of climate computer modeling, but weather balloons are another tool used for looking at the weather. And balloons have been in the news a whole lot recently, ever since that balloon from China was spotted moving across the country. But as David Winter reports, balloons in the sky are a lot more common than you may think.
Now that we got everything prepped, here we go.
The National Weather Service in Wilmington, Ohio launches a weather balloon twice a day, 365 days a year. They gave us permission to use this video they shot. And the same thing is happening in 92 locations across the country, 800 locations around the world. They are measuring atmospheric pressure, temperature, and humidity.
When we first fill them up, typically they'll only be about maybe 4 feet wide, which is still really big for a balloon. But once it gets all the way up into the atmosphere right before it pops, it can be as large or as wide as about 25 feet, which, to put it in perspective, is roughly the equivalent of more than a 2-story building.
The weather balloons ascend at a rate of about 1,000 feet per minute. It takes them about 2 hours to reach 115,000 feet, at which time they burst. This is David Winter reporting.
Well, we don't always need weather balloons to tell us what's happening with the weather. Sometimes it's our own bodies that give us clues. If you live in the Southeast, you may have noticed that your allergies are really starting to kick in. And it's all because of the weather. Meteorologist Ryan Miranda explains from Macon, Georgia.
Well, have you noticed your allergies are on the higher end? Well, you're not the only one. The pollen is here, and it is way ahead of schedule. This map here shows the anomaly of the timing of our first leaf. That's really just how far away from the average it normally is, and most of the Southeast is under that red color. That's up to 20 days early. Almost 3 weeks. We are well ahead of schedule. Some areas in Florida are near their average, but for us, we are really feeling that pollen already start to pick up. So here on our pollen levels, tree is at the worst, almost into the severe category. Mold and grass down towards slate and ragweed, not quite there yet, but this could be because of our La Nina pattern that normally brings us very mild winters. So the trees are already feeling like spring as well.
And Florida manatees are in trouble. Seagrass is their primary food source as it's becoming more scarce because of polluted waterways and also because of warming temperatures. El Pelfley spent time at a farm in Florida that's helping supply lettuce to feed starving manatees.
There's plenty of romaine lettuce in this field near Belglade. Most of it goes to schools, cruise ships, restaurants, and supermarkets, but some of it will go to feed starving manatees in the Indian River Lagoon. TKM Bengard Farms is the largest grower of romaine lettuce in the eastern U.S.
We've had a great season this season. The weather's cooperated with us, and we have a lot of beautiful product.
Each week, the state buys about 3,000 pounds of romaine lettuce to feed manatees, which officials learned through trial and error seems to be their favorite.
Now that we get to not just feed people, but, support wildlife that's in trouble.
This is the second winter that TKM Bengard Farms has provided lettuce for the program, which feeds manatees in the Indian River Lagoon near Melbourne, a primary habitat here on the east coast of the state.
Feeding program is important kind of as a stopgap measure.
Kim Dinkins with Save the Manatee Club, a nonprofit group, says the lettuce will help the manatees survive the loss of the seagrass the animals are used to eating. Manatees are currently listed as a threatened species protected by state and federal law. The last count in 2018 showed about 8,000 manatees in Florida. In 2021, about 800 died of starvation.
Another animal facing challenges is the hippo, and today is World Hippo Day, so we can all learn more. The hippo is the third largest land mammal in the world and can weigh up to 3,000 pounds. In 2006, the International Union for Conservation of Nature listed them as vulnerable. Hippo numbers have been declining due to poaching and also the lack and loss of habitat. Well, did you know peach trees need to chill out in order to be their best? Today, February 15th, is the last day chill hours are counted for peach trees. Aaron Wise reports from Birmingham, Alabama.
It's like if you didn't get 8 hours of sleep at night, then you don't perform as well the next day, and these trees are the same way.
Peach trees need their rest when they aren't producing fruit. For Lynn Harrison, he'd like to see 1,000 chill hours. A chill hour is counted when temperatures are around the low to mid 40s. The amount of hours a tree needs varies.
The majority of our trees only require up to 750 hours. We have some 850, some 950.
A lack of chill hours could mean?
The biggest thing is they don't leaf out. And when they don't leaf out, they don't have the food, they don't generate the food and everything to feed the fruit. So you could have adverse effects like size of fruit, the amount that a tree can sustain, so you may have to thin it a little bit more.
There is a solution that can be put on trees to help accumulate more hours.
On the high chillers, I sprayed them last week to try to make up for some of the cold that they didn't get naturally.
Kenyon Easterling explained the deep freeze in December did not help meet chill hours.
42 is an optimum temperature for collecting dormant or chill hours. Anything below that, you start getting a fraction of an hour.
Well, a very good Wednesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. Taking a look at your weather story today. We got some snow starting to kind of work its way through the plains there. For tomorrow, we've got severe weather across the Ohio Valley and accumulating snow from Nebraska through Iowa up towards the Great Lakes. And then by the time that we get to Friday, colder for a lot of us. We'll have some clouds across the Great Lakes, some lake effect clouds, but a lot of the plains dealing with plenty of sunshine for Friday.
Well, a good Wednesday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Chris Suchet. Our forecast today, there is a risk late Wednesday evening into Wednesday night for a couple of heavy thunderstorms across northeast Texas, Oklahoma, into Arkansas as that front and area of low pressure approaches. Really warm out ahead of it. See how we do get a few thunderstorms, isolated coverage of heavy weather. And then Thursday, the bulk of that heavy action shifts off to the east. A lot cooler and windy Thursday across the region with temperatures tumbling.
Well, hi there and a wonderful Wednesday morning to everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Out west, the big story, certainly the snow and the icy cold, gusty conditions in the Intermountain West. We're only going to max out at 19 apiece today between Jackson Hole and Denver, Colorado, versus 50s to low 60s with some sunshine along the California coastline. This weather maker, big deep area of low pressure, continuing to dig through the Rockies for that heavy blowing snow today. And that's the scene from here.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
This gas station cover was blown down by winds that moved through Abilene, Texas. They did not accompany a thunderstorm, but gusted more than 50 miles per hour. And in this time lapse, cirrus clouds and vapor trails move one way over Mobile, and the cumulus clouds are moving another direction. Meteorologist Alan Seals says the low-level wind from the south means higher humidity from the Gulf of Mexico.
For more content like this, like the National Weather Desk on Facebook.
Stock car racing fans are gearing up for a big week. Turns out Daytona Beach, Florida is going to have a good weather week too.
A busy week of racing at Daytona International Speedway. I'm meteorologist Dave Dirks. For those of you heading to the races, weather is looking very good. Warm indeed Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Highs in the low to mid 80s, lows in the lower 60s. Could see a passing shower on Friday. Turning cooler this weekend, but we're keeping the sunshine. 60s on Saturday, and the weather right now for the Daytona 500 is looking perfect with temperatures in the 70s.
And we would love to connect with you. You can find us on all of your favorite social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Just search the National Weather Desk, and we will be right back. Thank you so much for joining us. Tomorrow on the National Weather Desk, we'll look at how the atmospheric river has played a role in the death of thousands of monarch butterflies. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great Wednesday, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.